Greetings, welcome to class. I'm Professor Lauren, and this is the introductory lecture to our literary study unit on Anthony Burgess' novel, A Clockwork Orange. We're going to spend 5 class sessions on this over 2.5 weeks, longer, a little bit longer if we need to. We'll see about that. And I'm going to be asking you to do some working and prepping at home, mixed in with some classroom activities. That'll include small group work, some presentations, and a little bit of lecture. We'll set some time aside for planning in class. Now, some call this flipping the classroom or student-centered learning or even constructivist teaching. I call it doing my best not to bore you and to get us engaged with the literary work at hand. And of course, here we have Alex and his droogs in those iconic images. And by way of summary is I had written one up myself, but you know what I found in our text is one that Anthony Burgess, our author, wrote himself by hand in the margins of his manuscript. So allow me to read from that. A Clockwork Orange is the scarifying autobiographical confessions of Alex, a juvenile delinquent of the unspecified but not very distant future, who tells the tale of his own criminal excesses and his re-education in the peculiar slang of his generation. It will take the reader no more than 15 pages to master and revel in the expressive language of Nadsat. After that, he has before him an easily digestible feast of picaresque villainy and social satire. The book can be read as a straightforward horror comedy or, on a deeper level as a fable of good and evil and the importance of human choice. As the genial Alex himself might put it, it is a horror show story which will either make you smeck like Bazoomy or bring the old tears to your glazies. Now, we're going to be approaching our literary study from the view of traditional literary criticism of Burgess' work. And there you see on the left a copy of the book that his work is included in. It's edited by Mark Rawlinson, and it includes a lot more than just the Burgess novel. We'll get to that in a minute. And of course, in the upper right above my talking head is the iconic poster that advertised the Stanley Kubrick's film treatment of Burgess' work. Now, the traditional literary technique means that we'll be spending time doing close reading. You're going to look, or you should look, at word choice, about recurring language, and I'm giving you some hints here, by the way. Story structure. How's the book put together? How many sections are there? How many chapters are there in each section? Does that mean anything? And especially context. Who is our author? What's going on around him? What was going on around him when he wrote this? What are the influences? And what was going on in his life and in the greater culture and the greater world, for that matter? Now, I'm not going to steal anyone's thunder because we're going to be covering these things in class. It's going to be some of the group work. But that's just 3 examples: close reading, story structure, and should we say the context of the author's life and the culture that you can find in the pages of our textbook. You don't have to go to outside sources to find that. And I'll give you one example on page 144 that Burgess explains clearly and simply where he got the term "a clockwork orange" and how he means it and what he uses it for. So the point there is you're going to want to read more in Rawlings' book than just Burgess' novel. Okay, here is the schedule. We're going to take a quick look at that just so you'll get a bearing on what I'm asking you to do, when we're going to do it, and a little bit of how we're going to do it. But today's Thursday, the 31st of August, right? So start reading your book now. Now, I know we haven't finished up with our Kurt Vonnegut section or unit yet, but we're going to finish that up next week. You can begin reading this book now. That gives you plenty of time, almost 2 weeks before we take it up in class on the 12th. But during this time, so today, go home and start reading it. You're going to annotate. You're going to do some close reading. Read the entire thing. Yes. You've got plenty of time to do this. We're going to return or begin on our Anthony Burgess unit, our Clockwork Orange unit, on the 12th of September, and that's you have an assignment coming up for then, and it's called the Nadsat assignment. And I'm going to ask you to write a 75-word paragraph in Nadsat. Nadsat is the youth street gang slang that Alex and his droogs use. There is a glossary in our book, and there's also available as more extensive glossaries on the internet. In fact, Burgess didn't want readers to refer to the glossary. I don't even think he included one in the original version, because he wanted to do a little brainwashing of his own. More on that when you read the sections I will assign. Anyway, you're going to write a paragraph, 75-word paragraph in NADSAT, and then you're going to translate it. We're going to bring them to class and do some presentation work and present them before the class. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. It'll also help you get used to reading the text. And it does count for a quiz grade. We may even turn it into a competition on whoever has the most interesting passage gets extra points, or maybe the top 5. Now then, on the 14th, we're going to look at the U.S. version versus the U.K. There's 2 different versions, and that's controversial in many circles. I'm not going, again, I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, but they differ, and they differ greatly. Burgess wrote the UK one with an extra chapter. The version in the US was released without that extra chapter. All right, jump on down to, and of course, more on that later. Jump on down to the 19th is, that's when your big essay is due. It's 750 words. I'll give you more details at the end. I'm going to also give you a handout in class on the first day of the unit on the 12th. So there is a, well, fairly enough detailed schedule of how we're going to cover this unit. Yes, and on Tuesday, September 12th, that's the NADSAT day. That's only going to take about half the class or less. And so we're also going to do these group topics, okay? And you're going to have, I'm going to divide the class into 4 groups, maybe more, depends on how many people we have, and I'm prepared to do more. But you see, one group will be asked to summarize the plot. Another will focus on Mr. Burgess, his biographical information, historical context. The third group is just a presentation of the characters with their names, their personalities. Why are they important? What do they do? And then the fourth group, this is a cool one, gets to tell us all about Ludovico's technique. You may be wondering, what is Ludovico's technique? You will find out, I guarantee that. And then the big day, or the big event, is Tuesday, September 19th. The Clockwork Orange essay is due that day. Consider that we'll be assigning it on Tuesday, September 12th, a week in advance. And, in fact, I guess you could technically start on it now. But here's your 3 choices for prompts or topics. Is it better to be able to choose evil than to be forced to do good? That essay, you'll be asked why or why not. You want to address the nature of free will, as well as morality, good versus evil, the relationship between each of those. And then, will young Alex ever change? Should he? Can he? Do you want him to? The desire and ability to bring about personal change is an issue. It's also called the character arc. Maybe you've heard about this or familiar with it, but you know that in every literary work, and even on television and certainly movies, is that the character starts out one way and goes through this arc and ends up changed. We hope for the better, but always different. Now, and then finally, building on the debate from our earlier class, is you can choose to argue for or against which chapter should be final. Should it be the original, the UK version with the extra chapter, or the US version? You'll want to consider the effect on readers, the messages, the message that's invoked and put forth. Now you can, when you're writing these, you can use outside sources, but most everything you need is right here in our text, and I'll show you why. Because if you take a look at this, is the contents pages. Here is the text of A Clockwork Orange. It begins on page 1 and it goes to page 122. Now, all the rest of this is additional information. Much of it, especially this part here, is written by or either interviews with Anthony Burgess. So you want to know what he was thinking, what he was going through? There you go. You want to know what the critics had to say about this work? There it is. You want to know what they thought about Stanley Kubrick's film version of the work? There it is. Again, you're welcome to go outside of this, but there's a whole lot of material in our book, and our book's less than 400 pages, so it's not that long and not that hard to get through. This is our first best source. Fine? Okay. That's a summary, a look ahead at our study unit on literary criticism of A Clockwork Orange. You're going to get hard copies of each assignment with complete details, usually on the day, prior to. You'll have those in hand, I promise you. Now that you know what's coming, you can start thinking about it, how you might approach these things at home, on your time at home and in class with the group works. And of course, if you have any questions, you know how to contact me. And that is all I have now. So I will see you in class. Thanks for your time.